Good evening and welcome once again, friends, to the podcast. I am so excited to have you all back with me in the virtual and audio spaces this evening. We are here to encourage you, to empower you, and to walk alongside you as you live your very best lives. The Lotus Flower Podcast, where you can bloom and blossom and smell the fragrance of what it means to be resilient. And I am so grateful to have you here as my audience. You have been with me over the last 3+ years, and we are growing, y'all. Each and every week, we are getting new subscribers, and I am just amazed at how much an impact the podcast is making. I've had so many comments of how lives have been changed and have been touched, and people have actually started new businesses. People have actually started new diets, eating different foods that they've never thought they'd eat. People have started a new relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ. People have started to look at themselves in the mirror and make some necessary corrections. People are blooming and people are blossoming, all because we're here doing strategic ministry. And without you, the podcast wouldn't be what it is today. So I want to thank you all for being my guest and for being my audience over the last 3+ years. And tonight, we have for you a very special episode. And I want you to know to get your smartphones, get your tablets, get your desktops. Come on in, join us this evening. We have a very special guest with us. Share this podcast with your family, friends, and loved ones. And as you share the podcast, go ahead and subscribe if you have not already. So if you're watching on YouTube this evening, go ahead and click that subscription button and also click the bell, the notification bell that's right there on YouTube. You go ahead and click that so you'll be notified every time an episode airs. And if you're watching here on the Facebook, go ahead and join and be my friend on Facebook. So each time I air, you'll be notified as well. And also, don't forget, if you're driving down the highway in your car, like I do, an hour back and an hour to and fro work through the week, down the highway on this fast road coming through the triangle, I will turn on the podcast and I'll listen right through my car speakers. And I want you to do the same. So you can listen as you're driving to and fro work, if you're out there grocery shopping, just running errands, or if you're in your kitchen cooking, or you might be on your back porch doing some yard work or getting some stuff ready for the fall. Go ahead and tune in while you're listening. Put in your pods, go ahead and listen, and I guarantee you'll be blessed by what you hear. Well, this evening, without further ado, I want to let you know that I have a very special guest with me, and I consider her to be one of my friends here in Raleigh, North Carolina. She is no stranger to the podcast, having been on the podcast last year, and she shared a wealth of information at that time. Her name is Jasmine Westbrook. She is a powerful, a powerful, world renowned nutritionist and wellness professional. As a registered dietitian and nutritionist and a certified diabetes care and education specialist in Raleigh, North Carolina, she has dedicated her life to transforming health outcomes through food and education. Her journey into nutrition was deeply personal, stemming from witnessing firsthand how preventable health issues affected her family, an experience that fueled her passion for preventative care and holistic health. Jasmine holds a Bachelor of Science in Nutrition Dietetics from the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga and a Master's in Nutrition Education from Rosalind Franklin University in Chicago. Her academic and professional expertise has led her to not only have lived experience, but academic excellence and professional expertise, as she has co founded EatWell Exchange Incorporated, a 501c3 nonprofit that empowers underserved communities to make sustainable, health forward changes while embracing their cultural food traditions. Her extensive work with women, infant, and children over the last 3 years laid the foundation for Eat Well Exchange, an organization that has since become a vital source, offering diabetes prevention workshops, culinary programs for youth, and hands on cooking demonstration, bringing nutrition education to life. In addition to her community work, Jasmine is the CEO of Nourish Through Nutrition, where she brings her expertise of a broader to a broader audience. A sought after media dietitian, she has been featured in prominent outlets. She has been featured on Dietitian, WFLA Tampa, CBS 17 Raleigh Durham, NBC Miami, Real Simple, Self, and Essence magazine. Her impact was also recognized when she was named as one of the 40 Black dietitian, nutritionists, chefs, and food influencers to know and love by Lotus.com, a testament to her influential voice in the nutrition space. Jasmine is committed to bringing people that look like you and I into a space that sometimes isn't frequented by us. She's thrilled when she's able to promote both longevity and enhance the quality of life for people from all walks of life. Her work not only focuses on treating and preventing chronic conditions like diabetes, but also empowers clients to thrive one meal at a time. Before I bring her to the screen this evening, I want us to peruse her website. Now, we'll go through the website rather quickly, but I want you all to do me a favor, okay? Now, don't just say you're going to do it and then don't. After this podcast airs, I want you to go back to her website, which is the link is right here on the screen. Now, you go back to the website, you see the link down here on the screen, and you take your time and you peruse that site at your leisure, and you find out specifically how you can benefit from her Eat Well Exchange website and all of the things that she does. It reaches not only here in the triangle, but if you go on their website, even if you're on the other side of the world where this podcast airs globally, you can be blessed by it as well. I'll show you now her website. This is the EatWell Exchange Incorporated website. It says stay connected. She's got links where she has a company link about our impact and how to contact she and her partner. There are programs here. There's get involved. There are events here on the next link over. There are recipes, delicious recipes that I encourage you all to go ahead and peruse those recipes and try some of them. There's media, there's shops, and contractors here. And on the screen, you can see the recipes are listed here. A delicious strawberry drink, a honey barbecue sauce, right here on the screen. Some Juneteenth recipes. Now, take your time, go through this, as I stated, at your own leisure, and read it and see how you can not only benefit from the website, but see how you can be a blessing to Miss Jasmine as she's reaching all over our community here in the Triangle and beyond. Bless her by purchasing some of her products, sending out a shout out to her, letting her know you enjoyed tonight's conversation, reaching out and asking, how can I actually be a part of the solution as you reach out to underserved communities? As you can see here on the screen, the problem: lower socioeconomic communities lack the confidence, knowledge, and resources to eat nutritious diets within their own food culture. Well, tonight we're going to talk about how can those communities and other communities enjoy the food of their own cultures. So I'm going to go ahead and going to bring Miss Jasmine onto the screen at this time. And as I said, I want you all to be sure to go back and peruse the website listed here on the screen at your leisure. Tonight, I'd like to bring now to the screen my guest, my friend, and a wonderful woman that just loves to serve her community, Ms. Jasmine Westbrook-Figaro. Welcome, welcome to the Lotus Flower Podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me back. I'm really excited about being on the podcast
Oh,
again.
you are so welcome. And I am so excited to have you on the podcast this evening as we talk about this wonderful topic of personalizing nutrition, embracing culture in food choices. Tell us a little bit about what does that actually mean, that title?
Yeah, that title can hold a lot of information. And I probably it's best to start based on how EatWell Exchange was founded and what does it mean to eat within your food culture. Um, I used to work for WIC, or Women, Infants, and Children, which is a federal program that's a part of the health department. And most cities and counties have a health department and have this particular program that serves women, infants, and children. And so when I was working there as a nutrition educator, myself and the other co-founder of EatWell Exchange, we noticed that people that would come in, or women that would come in to get nutrition counseling, they were often told that they were non-compliant because they weren't eating foods that were recommended to them that were based on the Western diet of what they think is healthy, or what, the nutrition educators or my colleagues thought were healthy. And so it really didn't dawn on us to think like, okay, what foods do, our participants really eat? And then as they started to name the types of foods that they eat, we're like, oh, okay, these are healthy foods. It was just, the ignorance and the not knowing of certain cultural foods from the staff and just our teaching that we realized, we're actually preventing this population from getting healthy. And so what we did was we started a nonprofit organization called EatWell Exchange, and we teach communities or underserved communities how to eat healthy based on their cultural foods. Now, some people may ask, what are cultural foods? Think about foods that maybe you grew up with. Maybe there is a family significance, a holiday significance, but can still be healthy. And so one that I think of that comes to mind just right off of the back is collard greens, right? Collard greens are good. I know how to cook them very well now. My grandparents knew how to cook them very well too. But when you Google healthy foods, collard greens usually don't come up. It's usually kale, it's usually quinoa, it's usually foods that, again, that have a Western stamp on it that are considered healthy. And so what we're doing is changing the narrative around what foods are healthy, showing you the evidence and educating communities about the nutrients and the vitamins that are in our cultural foods, and showing them how to embrace their cultural foods when they think about their food choices and want to get healthy.
That's amazing. And as you are out educating the population and you're showing them that they can eat their own foods and prepare, however, maybe prepare them a bit different, how much buy-in are you getting from the people that are coming out and frequenting your workshops and the educational seminars that you do all over? Are people actually embracing this, or is it a little more pushback because they've eaten that way so long?
Yeah, so I think it's a
They are.
mixture. Sometimes it's a little bit of like disbelief, like, wait, you're saying my collard greens are healthy, or wait, you're saying my foods are healthy? Yeah, so I think a little bit of that gives me to explain to them why their cultural foods are healthy. You even saw on our website how, our mission was, or one of the things that we're doing is we're empowering our community, because our community needs that push and that empowerment. And sometimes it has to come from a dietitian of color that looks like them, that share the same, some type of question about it, because it's not something that a lot of healthcare professionals are going around saying to eat. When most people are diagnosed with diabetes or a medical condition, most people think all you need to eat is chicken, broccoli, and brown rice. But I'm here to tell you that can be boring at some point, right? And so there are many different foods and
Yes.
many different colors and many different types of dishes that we can still eat as a culture. And guess what? It can prevent and treat a lot of medical conditions that we have. But we just have to get that information out there and educate people. And I think it's so important for our organization to not just to educate people and tell them about their cultural foods and why they're healthy and why they should include them into a healthy diet, but show them. And so that's why we created our culinary programs, to get in the kitchen and engage with them, to cook different foods, like jerk collard greens is one of the recipes I love cooking as a class, or sweet potato hash. Like those are dishes that we can make that don't take a lot of ingredients. It has some type of cultural significance, and it's healthy for you.
That's excellent. Just excellent. So I hope that those that are listening this evening are taking this to note that you can eat your own cultural foods. If you're told that you have diabetes, don't have to just cook rice and broth and those foods that sometimes get to be boring, but there are other choices. And so go to the website. You may not be able to get everything right now, but go to Miss Jasmine's website and there are some delicious recipes there. Now, Miss Jasmine, tell us, what is diabetes and what is the difference between a dietitian and a nutritionist?
That's a very good question. So the first question, just to address that with diabetes, right? So diabetes is the inability to process or use glucose the way that our body is designed to use it. There's a lot of different factors and things that go on in our bodies whenever we process or metabolize, another good word, glucose. So anything that is considered a carbohydrate has to be broken down into sugar. Now, the sugar needs to go into our cells to be used as energy, right? And a lot of people don't understand that we need carbohydrates. We need some form of glucose. But the thing is, we need it to enter our cells so that our bodies can use it. And if it enters our cells in the way that it's supposed to, then we won't see a high blood sugar, But if you have diabetes, sometimes that glucose is not being entered by the cell, what we call with insulin, because insulin is really gives the glucose the open door,
Yes.
opens the door of the cell so that glucose. And so when you have diabetes, there could be a couple of things going on. Maybe your body's not giving enough insulin to get that glucose in the cell. You may have what we call insulin resistance, which you hear a lot,
Yes.
where insulin is being given to the body, but it can't, for whatever reason, unlock the door of the cell so that glucose can enter and be utilized. And so if glucose is not entered to be utilized, then what happens? That means there's glucose just flowing around in your bloodstream, and it can cause damage over time to your eyes. It can cause damage to your vessels in your legs and your feet, in your kidneys. And so there's lots of different treatments regarding like exercise or diet or even medications to help your body to utilize that glucose like it was designed to do. So that's what diabetes is, and that's the difference between how our body is supposed to compared
Mhm.
to, how our body may, depending on what situation we're in.
And can you tell me, are African Americans more prevalent or more prone to actually be diagnosed with diabetes than other cultures? And if they are,
Yes,
why is that?
yes, there are so many different factors of why that is, but that is a true statement. There's a lot of research to show that as African Americans, we are at a higher percentage and higher risk for developing type 2 diabetes than our white counterparts. Now, when it comes to why that is, there's so many different factors of why that may be. Most people think, oh, it's because you eat desserts, you eat fried food, all these variety of things that we kind of come up with our head or are assumed of why diabetes is present in some people's lives. But there are risk factors associated with it. So you have high risk, if you will be a high risk of developing type 2 diabetes based on how much you weigh. So if you're, obese to a certain extent, if you
Mhm.
have family history, you also have a higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes.
Mhm.
If you, as a woman during your pregnancy, if you had gestational diabetes, you're at higher
Mhm.
risk for developing type 2 diabetes. If you have heart disease, or under heart disease, there's different categories like high blood pressure. If you've had a stroke, any
Mhm.
type of heart issues, you are at higher risk. And there's a couple of others too, at age as
Mhm.
well. So that's why doctors check around ages 45 to 50.
Mhm.
They actually try to check your A1C, which is the
Mhm.
diagnostic number that they use to diagnose you with type 2 diabetes. So
Mhm.
age does play a factor. Now, there are other factors that we're starting to see that weren't
Mhm.
always there and kind of broadcasted as a risk factor, and those are social determinants of health. And so when we
Mhm.
think about social determinants of health, that's how people live, play, work, just be. And we know that there are certain communities of color that struggle with certain social determinants of health, meaning they don't have access to healthy food. They have social influences that, kind of steer them in different ways versus eating healthy.
Mhm.
There's a lot of different, lack of education is another one, right? So if there's
Mhm.
not
Yeah.
education, that's a barrier. And so
Mhm.
there's other barriers besides just, eating healthy, weight, all the other things I named prior to, that we're starting to see in research, that the further you are from the grocery store, that's going to put you at higher risk for developing cancer, diabetes, heart disease, all those things that can be prevented.
Yes, well, I thank you for explaining that so thoroughly to us. Now, can you also share with us once again, for people that may not know, let us know what is the difference between when we say, well, this person, she is a dietitian. And then someone might say, well, this person is a nutritionist.
Mm-hmm.
And so they sound so similar, don't
Yeah.
they? Even to me. I'm sure there are a lot of people that are watching, like, wow. So educate us tonight. What is the difference, Miss Jasmine?
Yes, there is a big difference. So just to kind of like sum it up now before I go into detail, but a nutritionist, anyone can call themselves a nutritionist. You can take a nutrition certification and call yourself a nutritionist. You can go to school for a bachelor's degree and nutrition, which is what I did, and call yourself a nutritionist. Your doctor can call themselves a nutritionist. So I'm
Okay.
saying that because anybody that feels like they can kind of give themselves or teach anyone about nutrition can technically call themselves a nutritionist. However, there is a difference, and you want to be careful because nutritionists, quote unquote, right, what I just explained, may not
Mm-hmm.
have the proper education to give you regarding medical conditions and how to treat them. And
Okay.
so a dietitian has gone through a 4-year degree and got pretty much like a credential in a sense or accreditation through 4 years of college in nutrition, undergrad. And then we apply for a dietetic internship. And so
Yes.
this is where we do rotations in the hospital. We do rotations in community nutrition at different facilities. We do also rotations in food service. And we have to
Mm-hmm.
have, so many hours that completed in order to sit down and take a national exam. And that
Okay.
exam is extremely hard. And once we pass that exam, we then have the credentials, just like a doctor would have a credential
Mm-hmm.
for medical doctor. They have to sit down and take a board exam. We have to do the same for nutrition. And so it is, as you can see, it's a big difference, right? When someone calls
Yes.
themselves a nutritionist, they may, easily go through like a 30-day nutrition certification, but I've gone
Mm-hmm.
to school for almost 6 to 8 years, pretty much, to
No.
get these credentials and these letters behind my name. And
Oh,
so it is a board certified type of credential. And I will say too, like, throughout the United States, there are some states that don't require you to be a dietitian to see
mhm.
and give education about nutrition to the public, right?
I see.
But there are
Mm-hmm.
states like the state of North Carolina that actually do require you to have your registered dietitian's license in order to provide, nutrition counseling or what we call medical nutrition therapy for someone that may have
Mm-hmm.
diabetes, heart disease, all these different medical conditions that need treatment through nutrition as well. So just to throw that out there, there are certain states that require it, some certain states don't. But I
Mm-hmm.
think I know that there's a huge difference between the two.
That's great. Now, Miss Jasmine, I've got a two-part question here. So one is, why did you decide to become a dietitian? And then another part is, for there are some women and probably men that are watching this evening, and they may want to become a dietitian, but they know that in this field, there aren't very many people that look like you and I that are representing this wonderful field. And so they may be a bit apprehensive. So can you tell us, why did you become a dietitian? And then how are you able to navigate a field that maybe doesn't have as many African Americans in it, but you've been able to be very successful in this field? So can you tell us how we can go about maybe getting around some of those roadblocks that you might run into just because of being an African American female?
Absolutely. So to answer your first question of how I got, why did I choose to become a dietitian? So when I went to college, my undergrad studies, I actually wanted to be a veterinarian. So I wanted to study vet medicine. I was in that degree for about 2 to 3 years until my family started. I took notice of my family starting to have a lot of medical conditions. And then as I started reading up on them, to try to take care of them and give them advice, I noticed that some of these medical conditions could have been prevented through proper diet, lifestyle, and just changing the way that they eat or live their life, right? And then it dawned on me too that a lot of my family had passed away from medical conditions that could have been prevented, like a stroke, like a heart attack, complications of diabetes. And so, I then started to experience my own relationship with food and an unhealthy relationship with food. And I had to learn how to build myself up. So I do have my own journey of being stressed out and being this person that's studying all the time in college and not taking care of myself. So I think it was more of a personal type of thing for me, not only for my family, but also my own relationship to food that made me want to make a difference in other people's lives, but also continue to make a difference in my life and my family's life. And so that's why I became a dietitian. I changed my major probably like 2.5 years into already picking technically a major. And I remember my parents being like, oh my God, what are you doing? You can't stay in college forever. But I did finally graduate with my bachelor's degree in science and dietetics, or nutrition and dietetics. And I don't regret it because I have learned so much. I think most people think that dietitians only just write meal plans, and that's not just what we do. You have dietitians that do so many other things like I do, like work in the community, teach classes, create recipes, sports dietitians, media dietitians, renal dietitians. There's so many different things that you can do as a dietitian. And I've been so blessed to be able to do those things and show how valuable we are to the community. Now, your next question mentioned about like being a Black dietitian. And so it wasn't really until I graduated college that I noticed that it's not that many of us as far as Black dietitians. And so just to give you all a little bit of statistics, Black dietitians make up 3% of all dietitians in the US. Yeah.
3%? Only 3%.
3%. Less,
Oh,
and I think it's
wow.
really less than that. So I'm being very generous right now. It's about 2.7%.
Oh,
And
wow.
there's only about a little bit over 115,000 dietitians total in the US. And
Mm-hmm.
so having that experience as being a person of color in dietetics, and I'm sure anyone else with, a health background or like a nurse or a doctor can really testament to this, that it can be
Yes.
hard sometimes because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you don't share those same experiences. You may meet people that don't have the same compassion for certain communities as you do because you know how it is to live in a certain community. And oftentimes these people are your family and your friends. And so a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times, at least for me, I had to deal with a lot of stuff that I didn't like to deal with from other colleagues, unfortunately, that did not understand our culture and why we move the way we do. And so
I see.
coming from that, I was able then, to really educate dietitians in a very respectful way and say, hey, this person has a different background than you. It's important for you to try
Mm-hmm.
to have empathy and understand that, because you as a dietitian, as a nutrition professional, it is your role. It is your dedication, right, to be able to provide equal care to everyone,
Mm-hmm.
even if that means that you have
Yes.
to learn something from the person that you're serving. And so
That's good.
that it's been like a full circle moment, because now not only does EatWell Exchange provide nutrition, education on cultural foods to the community, but we
Mm-hmm.
now go and speak to different healthcare professionals at different conferences and teach them how they can provide culture focused nutrition and show empathy
Mm-hmm.
and compassion to certain communities, even if they didn't come from that same community. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
happy
That's
to be a trailblazer in that and being able to teach other healthcare professionals how they can do the same work that we're doing in a very respectful way.
That's just excellent. That is excellent. Now, do you find that the other cultures are open to being taught a different way and very receptive to that as you're
I think
going out
so.
and
Yeah.
reaching out? You're reaching out through the masses.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny you asked that question, because every culture community, has their leader. And
Mhm.
I've had to learn, and I tell people all the time, just because I'm Black, it doesn't mean that, I go to a Black community, maybe in a state I've never been to, and they simply respect me because I'm Black, or I want to hear what I have to say because I'm Black. You have to
Mhm.
earn that trust. You have to
That's
be
right.
transparent with people and let them know your agenda, because a lot of times people walk into these communities and have their own agenda and don't think about the people. And that
That's
has created distrust in the healthcare system. And so I
mhm.
think I will be doing myself in a disservice to other people that look like me without trying to develop a relationship and trust and ask people what they want to know. Because
That's
one thing you'll never see me do is go in a community and say, "Hey, I'm a superhero. I'm here to help you."
good.
No,
That's good.
I can tell you I'm a dietitian. I can share with you what I do, but it's going to take you, in the community to say, okay, we want to invite this person in to provide this education for us. So I think you gain a lot more respect, and you gain a lot more trust that way when you are authentically wanting to know about that community.
And you just like, I love what you said. You just don't go in and just bogart your way in and just go
No,
in thinking just because you're African American and they're African Americans, then you're just automatically going to be accepted into the
right,
community. And
right.
so thank you so much for sharing that, Miss Jasmine. Well, we're going to pause now for a brief station identification, and I will be right back with you shortly. Okay. Thank you all. Go ahead and take a break, get your snacks, get your once again your smartphones, your tablets, your desktops. Go ahead. If you've not logged in yet and you're just kind of perusing the internet and you kind of came on this, go ahead. You're in the right spot. You're in the right spot tonight. Go ahead and tune in, share, like, and comment, and we'll be right back with you shortly. Thank you all so much. There's nothing like making an impact on a community. It's nothing like educating people on topics that maybe they would have never known about. There's nothing like that. And there's nothing like strategic ministry. That means having a strategy of how to reach across the airways and make an impact and change lives. Tonight, I have a guest with me once again that is doing just that. And her name is none other than, once again, Ms. Jasmine. Ms. Jasmine, she is once again the founder. Well, she's the co founder. As you can see here, her picture. She is the co founder of EatWell Exchange, and we're located here in the triangle of Raleigh, North Carolina. Now, she is a registered dietitian and a director of EatWell Exchange. And once again, I want you to go ahead and your leisure to peruse her website. It's listed here on the bottom of the screen. Go ahead, come on in, write this down, peruse the website, look at those recipes. And once you look at the recipes, go ahead and try to follow that recipe and make some of those delicious meals using your own cultural foods. That topic tonight about preparing your own cultural foods in more healthy ways. So we're not telling you to eliminate greens, eliminate the fried chicken. We're not telling you to eliminate your cultural foods that have been delicious, passed down through the generation. But we have an expert tonight that's here telling you how to prepare those foods in maybe a more healthier way. And that is, once again, none other than my special guest this evening, Miss Jasmine Westbrook-Figaro. And she is a registered dietitian in the Triangles, more specifically here in Raleigh, North Carolina. And as you can see, she's the co founder once again of EatWell Exchange with one of her partners. And so thank God that she counted not robbery to say yes once again to be on the podcast for the second time. And once again, I will welcome her back to the Lotus Flower podcast as we continue our second half this evening. Yes, welcome back, Miss Jasmine. I'm going to go ahead and take your picture down, and we're going to go ahead and finish up this intriguing episode as you're sharing. I want to go ahead now and ask you, um, what can someone do to take the first step toward thriving? Toward thriving. I want someone to hear that. You can thrive and you can live a healthy lifestyle, but what is that first step in taking that they must take in order to thrive and in order to begin to live that healthy lifestyle?
That's a very good question. And the way I'll answer that is one way that most people probably don't expect, but it's to do a deep assessment of what you feel like you need to work on. And I know that's kind of broad, but what I find with a lot of people is they try to take on too much at one time. And when you take on too much at
Okay.
one time, when you're trying to make healthy lifestyle choices, it can be overwhelming.
Mhm.
It can be frustrating and it often does not last long and it barely even starts sometimes.
Okay.
And so I think that you have to really look at what are some things that, I know already that I need to do. For example, I can't tell you somebody may say, I can't tell you the last time I've had a vegetable.
Mhm.
Okay. Maybe start there. How can you incorporate more vegetables into your diet? Someone may say, I haven't remembered the last time I actually got some movement in and moved my body for some activity. Start there. Start with getting some movement into your activity. A lot of times we just take on so much. And then when we don't succeed, we get really, really upset with ourselves. We, show ourselves shame. We're just not encouraged and we're not empowered to take the next step. And so Rome wasn't built in a day. You did not get this body or this lifestyle that you want to change in a day. Oftentimes, it's years in the making of getting to a point where you want to change. So I think we should show ourselves grace in that. And where you should start is exactly where you feel like you've kind of been slipping. And that can look different for every person. So I can't really tell you, you need to do this or do that now. You have to take a deep assessment for yourself and realize what it is. And what I'll say too is find a dietitian. Most insurance companies, especially if you have insurance,
Mhm.
they provide you free hours with a registered dietitian.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a good idea for a registered dietitian to do like a nutrition checkup on you.
Mhm.
You go to the doctor every year for that
Yes.
physical. Why not go to a dietitian for nutrition check-in to see in what ways can you make improvements without first your doctor telling you that you need to see a dietitian? Because in those instances, it's usually because you've gotten to a point where at this point, it is necessary for you to see a dietitian. So why not do it before it becomes necessary to get a checkup on your health, just like you would for the dentist, for the eye doctor, whoever, right?
That's
Do the
right.
same with a dietitian.
Exactly. Now, here in Raleigh, where my son works at the Rock Quarry YMCA as a
Mhm.
fitness coach and a group instructor, and Jay, and there at the Rock Quarry Y, it's an intentional Y, and when I say intentional, that means they intentionally bring in the community. That Y sits right there in a food desert. It sits right there in a
Right,
very impoverished community where you would think those people,
right,
they'll never eat right, they'll never come into this Y. But I would like to tell you, the people are frequenting the Y. They're participating in the nutrition classes. They have a dietitian right there, and you're one of them that comes in, and all they are
mhm,
changing their lifestyles. People that might be on the lower socioeconomic levels, They're being embraced and loved on, and they're meeting people right where they are, and it's been done intentionally. Can you tell us how
Yes.
intentional are you about and your co-founder about serving people of color through your agency, and especially the people that are in food deserts?
No, that is so funny that you mentioned that, because that's how we started. It was based on intention, and then it grew from there. So when we started our nonprofit in 2017, again, going back to WIC, we knew that there was a limitation, and we wanted to break that limitation by serving different ethnic groups in a way that respected and maintained their cultural foods, because they were healthy after we started to learn that, right? And so
Yes.
what we first did was we went and started teaching nutrition classes in different communities. But the more that we talked to the community, they told us that, okay, this is great, Jasmine, but now we need access to certain foods, because even though you're telling us
Mhm.
to eat healthy, it's not that we don't want
Yeah.
to, we want to. But even with some of our cultural foods, it's hard to get, around here, as far as healthy
Hmm.
cultural foods. And so then
Yeah.
we began to create programs like our free farmers market and our gardening
Hmm.
classes that complemented what the community was asking for. And that was very intentional.
That's
The
good.
next part of that is we created culinary programs, because
Hmm.
the younger the generations began to be that became interested in EatWell Exchange, they're like, we want to know how to cook this, right? Like, how
Okay.
can we cook it and prepare it in a way that's going to really help my body to thrive, right? That word
Mhm.
thrive. So
Yes.
that was intentional. So every type of programming that we have is intentional, because someone from a community has said, I would like to learn this, and we've created programs around what the community wants to learn. And I think that's important, because that's when you're going to start to see behaviors being changed. That's when you're going to start to
Hmm.
see family members being invited to your next programming, because there's a good word, and
Good.
they feel like you listen to them instead of like pointing a finger.
Hmm.
That's very intentional. So everything that we do has an intention, it has goals, and it's for the community. We want the community to be able to say, this is our organization, and we want the
Yes.
community to say that we can change generational health, not just for myself in this current moment, but for generations
Mhm.
far past me that will come when I'm not even here anymore.
That's amazing. And I recall, Miss Jasmine, when you and your co-founder, you all hosted a program right there at the Black Farmers Hub in
Yeah.
Raleigh. And it was
Yeah.
right around Juneteenth of this year. And
Yeah.
I was so amazed by a whole panel of Black registered dietitians. They were like stretched right across at least 5 or 6 people, and they all looked like you and I, and even a male. And they were sharing so much information, and they were actually giving some corrective information. There was some people in the audience that were asking questions about their cultural foods, and they were
Yeah.
thinking, well, I can't prepare this food. I can no longer eat this. And I was told I'm a diabetic. And as soon as I went to this particular doctor, she said, well, you're diabetic, and that means you got to cut out all of your food. And they were thinking, well, I won't be able to eat anything. What am I going
Right.
to eat? And one of the dietitians there, one of the older ladies, and she was told her exactly how she could continue to prepare her foods and cook very well. And
Yeah.
she felt so empowered, and so did I. Now, I
Yeah.
have to admit to the world, because this is going global, that I learned something as well. Because you know how grandmama and them did it, and great grandmama and them did it. Well, when they
Yeah.
fried that chicken, they had all that oil after they fried that chicken. Y'all, some of y'all know what I'm saying. They took the oil and they poured it right into that can. They poured it
Mm.
into that grease can, and that grease can sat right there on the counter. And when they
Yep.
were ready to fry another batch of chicken, they took that grease can and they used that same oil. Well,
Yeah.
there was a young lady in the audience that day on the Juneteenth celebration that you all hosted. It was excellent. I want you to know again.
Yes.
And I was convicted that day because she said, well, you shouldn't use that oil over and over again because that oil actually could have contaminants in it. because it actually has maybe little food particles in it, and it's sat there and it's gotten hot, and we're
Yeah.
using that over and over again. And so she said, and the young lady said, well, I have a limited income. I'm a single mom and I can't afford to keep buying this oil. So this was the corrective information. She said, okay. No, she didn't just shoot her down and say, well, you're wrong. She
Yeah.
empowered her. She
Yeah.
said, you can use it again, but I encourage you to drain it with a strainer so you can drain that excess, maybe fats and things off. And she
Mhm.
said, then take it and put it in the refrigerator and have it cold, and maybe use it 2 to 3 more times, not like we did all year long. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm guilty. My parents would use that oil like for maybe 2 years.
Yeah.
No, not 2 years, at least 8, 9 months. Same
Right.
oil. I learned something. So I saw Miss Jasmine maybe about 4 or 5 months ago at the Black Farmers Market. I was so excited. I was like, Miss Jasmine, I learned something from your program. I said, I'm no longer using the same oil over and over again. I put
Yeah.
it in the refrigerator. And I
Yeah.
said, oh. So I learned and they learned just something that small.
Yes.
It was huge though. It was
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah, it was. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because some people may even be looking on here and being like, what? Y'all told her to keep her grease? That's not healthy. But you know what, though? The fact of keeping the grease or keeping the contaminants that could have got her food, like food poisoning, which
Right.
one are you going to address first? And it was working exactly with where she was. And
That's
that
right.
was, if you're going to use the oil, this is the proper way to use it, where it is not going to make you sick and possibly in the hospital in a more urgent way. That dietitian that responded didn't say, oh, fried food is horrible, you can't have it. She was just giving her basic food safety tips. And that's
Exactly.
what I mean by compassion. We weren't encouraging her just eat more fried food. We were just saying, if you are going to eat some, at least have it where you're not going to put yourself at high risk for literally getting a foodborne illness because of the way that you were preparing your food. So again, there's levels to this nutrition thing. And again, we're not just about meal plans. We do more than that. We go over food safety. We go over so many different things that, you need to know regarding
Yes.
food. So I thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, you're welcome, because I think that's common throughout our culture from all
Yeah.
different incomes. You don't have to be on low income, medium income, high income. I think it's just something common. Just like when we would say, "Well, Mom and them prepared the turkey this way." Well, Mom and them said you take that turkey and you put it in the oven and you put a little water on it and you put some onion around it and then
Yeah.
you cover it up and put it in the oven, and then you go in and you take it out in maybe 5 hours and whatnot. And then maybe my generation comes along and says, well, somebody might come to my house and say, Miss Pamela, why are you preparing that turkey that way? And
Right.
don't you know there's a faster, more efficient way? I was like, no, Mom and them, but Mom and them did it this way. But
Yeah.
but listen, my thinking has to be bendable. When I work with my clients as a therapist, I tell them that our thinking has to be bendable. Like I mold some Play-Doh, I
Yes.
have to have my mind be able to be moldable,
Yes.
open to new ideas. Just because Mom and them did it that way, y'all, that doesn't mean that we have to continue to do it
Yeah.
that way. Let's
Yep.
embrace what Miss Jasmine's sharing tonight. Let's
Yeah.
peruse her website. Let's
Yeah.
learn how to eat better and live longer, more fruitful, productive lives.
Right.
Does that make sense, y'all? Okay. Miss Jasmine, tell us, what else would you like to share with us this evening that maybe you didn't have an opportunity to share?
I just want to empower you all to make one step at a time. Like lifestyle change takes time. A lot of times we look at our situation and we're like, oh, well, I need to lose this amount of weight and it may seem too big, or I need to make these strides and it may seem unrealistic. So I encourage you all to just make small steps. Get support when making those small steps. Get a dietitian when making those small steps. Visit my website at eatwellexchange.org and learn about the events that we have in the community that are free, and take advantage of those resources. I was just talking, we were talking before the podcast about the programming that I have coming up. We have it's called Route to Wellness prevention culinary program, and we're preventing diabetes, heart disease, and cancer through this program. And it's a free program that we're hosting next year in January, and it's 12 weeks, and it's free. And it's where we come together and cook our cultural foods. And we also incorporate nutrition classes into this program. We have guest speakers. It's a whole thing. And we've had so
Mhm.
many people get results. 100% of the people that go through this program increase their fruit and vegetable intake. Over 70% of them that go through the program in the past have improved their lab work just from participating in these 12 weeks. And then, more importantly, they're exercising, right? People that have never
Mhm.
thought about or encouraged to exercise, now they're exercising more. So I do encourage you all to sign up for that program. It is eatwellexchange.org/prediabetes. You do not have to have diabetes to attend. You do not have to have prediabetes to attend, but you do have to be of African descent. And so if you want more information about that, go to our website. Again, it's free, it's 12 weeks, and it's interactive. We're cooking and talking about nutrition.
That's amazing. And all at no cost. All of
Nope.
the things that you have said at no cost. Who would not take advantage of that?
Yes.
Now, you have another program that maybe people that don't live in the Triangle area and maybe not even live in Raleigh that they can participate in. My daughter has participated in your program where you log on and you have a class that they can participate in. Can you tell us, I don't know if that's going on now, but can you tell us a bit about that? And maybe there are others that want to maybe be a part of that when you offer it again.
Yeah, so sometimes we do have virtual classes, and those virtual classes are sometimes taught by some of the staff members that we have that are contracted with us, like other dietitians or nutrition educators. And so throughout the year, we kind of in a sort like we will provide those classes. Now, one thing that we do, encourage is if you find that you want us to come and speak, to host a nutrition class, to host a cooking demo, to host a nutrition program, you reach out to us and we'll make that happen. We partnered with churches before, organizations, groups of families before. As long as it's a group setting, EatWell Exchange will come out and provide some type of education or some type of culinary cooking class or demo for your community. So if that's something that you're interested in, again, go to our website, contact us, and let us know how we can partner together to bring this to your community. Or if you're interested in more virtual classes, because again, we are listening to our community and what they want. And if you all want more virtual classes, that's something that we'll be able to do.
Amen. I like that. And I like the idea of listening to your community. When I was doing my research for my doctoral degree, that's exactly what I had to do. I had to go
Mhm.
out and do a focus, not just one focus group, but several focus groups. That, if y'all don't understand what that is that you gather the people from the community and you go to them in their community and you meet with them and you don't even have an agenda. You go and you ask them, what is it that you want to see happen, centered around whatever topic? Well, I was had a topic on mental health wellness for African Americans. And so I asked them and they told me, and I was able to create a cutting edge dissertation based off of what people wanted, not what Dr. Pamela wanted, but what they wanted. And so I am so thankful that Miss Jasmine, that's exactly what you all have done and continue to do to meet people right where they are.
Yeah,
That's when the program really makes an impact. Is that correct?
that is correct. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. I really appreciate you coming once again on the podcast for the second time. And I am just so happy to have gotten to know you now that I have transitioned to Raleigh. I've been here almost 2 years now, and I have met so many wonderful people, and you being one of them. Thank you so much and all. And my son, he speaks so highly of you and everything, and it's just a pleasure to know you and I kind of have met your husband when you guys were at the farmers market
Yes.
together and all, and so it's just, you're just good people, so you're not going to
Yes.
get rid of me anytime soon.
Oh, that is fine. Thank you for having me again.
Yes, I appreciate you, and I am really so excited for all that you're doing, and I can't wait to continue to participate and to share this wealth of information. Again, your website is here on the bottom of the screen. I encourage you all to peruse the website. We did go over it a little bit at the beginning of the podcast, but go back and look at that website, and don't only look at the website, but go ahead and participate. Now, do you have a way that if someone wanted to go ahead and like pour into this in terms of donations or anything of that nature? Is there a way that they can do that as well before
Yes,
we
they can.
close
They can
out?
actually, yes, they can go to the website eatwellexchange.org. In the top right hand corner, you'll see donate. Any donations are appreciated. It is given season, and those donations go directly to our programs.
Yes. Well, thank you. Well, thank you again, Miss Jasmine, for an excellent conversation this evening, as always. And I am so blessed by having you here again. And I would can't wait to see you again at the Black Farmers Market and down at the Rock Prairie YMCA.
Yes,
Have a
thank
good
you.
evening.
We'll talk soon. You too.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Good night.
Bye bye.
I am so excited to have had once again my friend and my colleague here out of Raleigh, North Carolina, my special guest, Miss Jasmine Westbrook-Figaro. And once again, she is a registered dietitian as well as the co-founder of the EatWell Exchange here in Raleigh, North Carolina. And what an amazing topic this evening, and it was fitting. The topic that we talked about once again was personalized nutrition, embracing cultural in food choices. And so that was a topic that I am sure that everyone can benefit from. So, if you're already eating correctly, if you're already preparing your foods that are cultural foods correctly, I'm grateful. If you're just starting, go ahead and continue. If you started and stopped, go ahead and start back again. Be encouraged tonight by this episode. It's easy to continue to do the same thing the same way and expect different results. But they tell me that that's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing the same way and expecting different results. But if you want to do something different and get different results, then what you have to do is make a change. And I believe that you're able, because the Bible tells me that we can do exceedingly and abundantly above all that we could ever ask or think. But it is according to the power that worketh within us, and that is the Holy Spirit. So, once again, I am your host, Dr. Pamela Robinson of the Lotus Flower Podcast, and this is season number 4, actually, episode number 68. And I am so excited that you all joined me this evening. And last week, I announced at the end of the podcast that we're going to be able to bless you all with copies of a book. Well, it actually will be happening next week on the podcast. When I tell you this, you're going to really be so blessed. When I tell you this, now listen in right now. This is something that you've got to take note of. Next week, I have coming on the podcast a very special guest. She is one of my former professors and mentors at the former Apex School of Theology in Durham, North Carolina. Now, I attended there roughly 4 years as I earned my master's in divinity and my doctorate in theology. And Dr. Long, Dr. Gladys Long, She's a powerhouse. She was there and she taught, and not only did she teach, but she was one of the administrators as well as a pastor in her own right. And I'm grateful to have had her make an impact on my life. Well, one of my colleagues that was in my cohort at Apex School of Theology, she posted on her Facebook page roughly for about 4 or 5 weeks ago that Dr. Long had published a book. And I was so taken back by that. I was so blessed and I was just tickled. I said Dr. Long had published a book. So I reached out to my former colleague, Miss Dr. Jennifer, and I said, Dr. Jennifer, can you put me in contact with Dr. Long because somehow I have lost her contact information. I want to talk with her a little bit about having her on the podcast. I want to be a blessing to her as she had been a blessing to me and my late husband. And so I wanted to be able to bless her by having her come on the podcast and share with you all about her book that she just published. And so I reached out to Dr. Long and she said, "Oh, Dr. Robinson, I just remembered your husband." She just forgot all about me. She said, I just love me Sir Reverend Curtis. She said, "Oh, we were the best of friends and he just was so loving and such a gentleman." And so I just started letting her talk and talk. And then she gave me her condolences for his transitioning and all. And as we kind of chit-chatted and caught up a bit, she said, "Oh, Dr. Robinson, I would love to be a guest on your podcast." She said, "This is such a blessing to be able to catch up with you and to be able to come on and to be able to be a blessing to the masses." And so Dr. Gladys Long, she will be my special guest next week, and we're going to talk not only about her wonderful book that she's just published, but we're also going to talk about her life and how the Lord has led her down through the years to be a powerhouse and one that has definitely made an impact on her community, on the Apex School of Theology, in her church, in her family, just an all round wonderful woman of God. And I'll tell you, we're going to bless several of you with a free copy of her book. So you have to be present, however, to win. And we're going to randomly select you to get a copy of that hot off the press book at no cost. So join us again next Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as we stream live right here on the Dr. Pamela Robinson Facebook page and on the Lotus Flower YouTube channel, as well as we are streaming wherever you find your audio podcast. So I'll look forward to seeing you all again next Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bye bye for now.